Our session starting now is Cracking the Code to Training CyberSmart Workers. Joining us, we have Sai Huda, the CEO of CyberCatch, an AI-enabled continuous cybersecurity compliance and risk mitigation solution provider. I always feel like explaining all of ELB Learning's products is a mouthful, but that one is definitely a lot to handle. Sai is a globally recognized cybersecurity expert and author. And joining him as well, we have Stephen Bear, Chief Creative Officer from ELB Learning. He has years of experience in creating award-winning games that educate and activate audiences. Stephen, you are now allowed to turn your camera on.
It says that the host has stopped my video.
All right, well, perhaps maybe I was a little bit of a control freak earlier. You should have permission now.
All right.
And with that, I will let you two take it over.
All right, well, let me share my screen and we'll get going. Very excited to be with all of you today. Just as a little bit of background, ELB has been working on cybersecurity training with CyberCatch now for a little over a year. And what we're going to show you today is by far one of my favorite projects we've worked on probably in my career. It is truly immersive. It is certainly utilizing cutting edge technology. It's focused on storytelling, and it's taking a really deep and challenging topic and turning it into something quite entertaining, engaging, and memorable. And I think those are all really important things. So for today, we're going to talk a little bit about the need behind cybersecurity training. We'll talk about how CyberCatch as a company is upskilling employees. We'll talk about what we did together with HackOps, which is the project we're going to review today. Talk a little about the product, the storyline, the characters, the environments, the technology. We'll preview the course so you can get certainly a good eye on what it includes, and next steps and what we're doing to push it forward. Why don't we kick off and just talk a little bit about the background behind cybersecurity training? And for this, I'm going to pass it off to Sai to give everyone at least a little bit of a background, because I think that's really critical for this conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. Great to be with you. And we thank the audience for making the time to join us today. I'm really excited to have this opportunity. So, if you look at today, security training, over $1 billion is being spent on security training today. But yet, when you look at the results, there's a gap. The results show that 74% of data breaches are caused by human errors. And this is according to Verizon's Data Breach Investigations Report, the most recent one, which looked at over 16,000 cybersecurity incidents and noted that they were really from human errors. And the errors can be anywhere from just beyond the basics, like clicking on a link that one shouldn't have, or downloading an attachment when one shouldn't do because there were some red flags, to other people in the company, such as in the IT area, where they're not configuring servers correctly, where they're forgetting to remove certain things in the code when they update a website, or just coding poorly, something that is on the internet. So whole host of errors on the organization are what creates nearly 3/4 of the time the opportunity for the attackers to exploit, break into the network, steal the data, or install ransomware. So that's a huge metric that we want to pay attention to. The other one is that 82% of websites that have internet-facing applications have vulnerabilities, like bad code, misconfigurations, errors. And this is per CyberCatch's scan of over 19,000 companies' internet-facing assets. That's, again, another significant metric, which means that there's poor technical work going on that is creating, again, opportunities for attackers to exploit the vulnerabilities and be successful. So what it tells us also is the investment we're making in training isn't working. It isn't producing the results that we need to do, because the training is pretty basic. It's not hitting home. It's not making us cyber smart. And so we're kind of just moving along going, okay, I got to do this training. It's kind of something I got to do for compliance, check the boxes, whatever, as opposed to, wait a minute, this is how the attackers do it? Wow, I had no idea. Wait a minute, this is what I can do on my end to make sure I don't allow them in. Whoa, that's cool. Wow, I had no idea. So that's what really is our thesis today, which, by the way, is proven from the feedback we're getting, and we're going to show you, is that we need to go to the next level. We need to take training to the next generation. And so that's what we're excited about to share with you today. So Stephen, thank you for teeing that up. If you go to the next slide, one of the other things that we want to share with you is sort of the backdrop. And so let me turn it over to Stephen for that.
So when we think about training as a whole at ELB, and certainly our conversation with CyberCatch is very similar philosophy, it's about thinking about what we're trying to get the learner to do, right? Ultimately, let's map to the performance objective that we have. And so Bloom's is obviously a phenomenal model for us to leverage to think about that. And so we start there and think about what is the objective here? And one of the things I want to hone in on, and you'll hear this repeated several times, is what Cy said just a few minutes ago. If you think about traditional cybersecurity training, it's often about what we as the employee or we as the learner need to learn to do. Well, we decided to kind of flip it on its head and say, let's talk about what the hacker's doing. Let's put you in their shoes, let you understand their thinking, their philosophy, their different actions and activities. And if you can understand that, you can understand what to avoid. And so that's where we started. That was where our thesis was, to Cy's point. When we look at Bloom's, we often will map it to, at ELB, a variety of modalities. And starting at the very foundational level, we'll take the very lower end of the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. And as we go up to level 4, which is a lot more immersive, it's more about those higher level activities, right? And so that's really where we focused here. In this case, we decided to build a solution leveraging virtual reality, mostly because we wanted to immerse the learner into the environment. Now, we didn't do it so it requires only goggles. We did it so it could be a 360 learning experience as well. We wanted to make it as accessible as 3D learning can be. Obviously, there's some 508 accessibility issues that we were not able to support. So I want to kind of just say that out loud. But that aside, which is an important component, we decided that this would be focused on really immersing the person in this situation. And so, our belief is that people are going to learn by doing, and that's certainly the most effective way to teach them, right? So let's talk a little bit about how this plugs into CyberCatch's overall business, and then we'll get into certainly where we went and what the approach was and deliverable that we took.
Great, Stephen. Thank you. And just a few minutes on this one, just to set the backdrop on what Stephen said, which is we wanted to flip the model and really have the learner think and behave like an attacker. And that way they can be a very strong defender. It's kind of like playing chess. If you just make a move, you're going to lose because you're not really anticipating or thinking through on what your opponent will move if you make this move. And then what are the next moves that you might have? So the more you can think forward before you make your move, the stronger you're going to be and you're going to win the game. So same concept here is that we've got to have the learner really think like the attacker and behave like the attacker, and therefore they will be really strong. So one of the things that we brought to the table here with our partnership with ELB, which is just a fantastic partnership, and we'll come back to this point on that, how we're able to basically have 1 + 1 = 10 here, is really tap into our combined but yet complementary expertise. So with CyberCatch, we're cybersecurity experts, and so for our customers, what we do is we first help them with our AI-enabled solution map the attack surface, and this is the IT assets. These are what the external attacker is going to try to find. So we actually do that work and think like the attacker from day one, is to say, okay, let's look at this organization. How will the attacker view this organization from the internet, from thousands of miles away? Can they scan and find all the IT assets? All right, what does it look like? Where is it? And so that's what we do. So we create a visual map of the attack surface map for that organization and a topology diagram. Again, starting to think like the attacker. And then what we do is we then use a tool called Cyber Benchmark and to identify what the defense looks like today. What are the prevention, detection, controls that they have? And we capture all that, find the gaps, and then our team of experts, what we call virtual CISOs, that then help the customer eliminate those gaps. So if there's a control missing, we help implement. If there's a configuration that needs to be done correctly, we guide. Whatever we got to do, we do it quickly. And so within a few weeks, we got them the proper defense. So we know what the attacker's looking at, and we know what's inside and outside, and now we know what the gaps were, and now we've eliminated them. So within the first 3 steps, we get them in a strong defense. And then we turn on some automated testing, like automated scanning that simulates an attacker scan with Cyber X-ray. Then we send simulated phishing emails to the employees, high-value targets, to see if we can fool them before the attacker can, and coach them. And then we do 36 different internal pen tests with our agent inside the network, find, again, those control failures, detect, report, and help fix. So with this process, we are learning what works, what doesn't work. We're learning how attackers are scanning. And we've taken all those knowledge bases and put them into this next generation cybersecurity training called HackOps that we're going to show you today, Stephen and I, which we're really, really excited to share with you. And so HackOps is based on actual attacks and also actual real world poor practices and best practices. So with that, let me turn it back to Stephen.
Okay, so let's talk about our creative approach here. And this is where I get really excited because when we go back to the beginning of this relationship, Cy and his team came to the table with gobs and gobs of information for our team to ingest. And what's really wonderful, as he kind of alluded to, we start off the relationship with him allowing us to come back to the table with a variety of creative approaches. And so our team kind of decided to take an alternative approach, and we'll go through exactly what we did. But we ultimately wanted to create a next-gen security awareness generation. Next-gen training environment. So what does that include? That includes the combo of both movies and games, and that's something you're going to see here. You're certainly playing through this experience, and it's very cinematic. We wanted the employee to play the role of the hacker. So we wanted them to attack, and to what Cy was saying earlier. Really, we wanted them to think almost like a chess master, right? Really, what do I need to do and how do I need to approach this? This is not ho-hum cybersecurity training. This is really immersive and thought-provoking. We wanted to make sure that we were really training the learner, the employee, to become a human firewall for the company. And that's really critical, right? Without that, we ultimately are just checking a box. So we wanted to have a true, tangible result here in what we're delivering. And then we wanted to, build what we are calling the Cyber Savvy IQ score. And this is something that we will be leveraging. This is the first in a series of courses that we are building on this topic. And so this will span across a variety of courses that are in the works today. So what is the course overall? It's 60 minutes in length. You start as a newbie hacker, right? And you learn how to do a variety of things, from phishing to front door internet facing, to third-party vulnerabilities across the board, really. And this is all the stuff that CyberCatch is focused on with a variety of other modalities. But we did it in the form of storytelling, right? Because we think about why storytelling. We as people, not learners, not teachers, but we as people have been storytelling since caveman time, right? It is part of our DNA, and that's certainly the way that we really remember things. And we're able to really associate the teachings with certain visuals and certain experiences, right? So we wanted to take that and really apply that here. And so when we think about stories, one of the things that we focus on is starting with a structure. And this structure, I use Rocky as an example because I think that you can kind of picture it very easily, or I can at least. We want to place the learner in an ordinary world. What is that ordinary world, right? In this case, it happens to be hacker related. You can think about from it as it pertains to this content. You can think about it as it pertains to Rocky. We want to bring the learner to an adventure. So there's a call to adventure. What's going on and why do we need them to participate? We're going to introduce them to some mentor or mentors. We're going to have them cross a threshold, try something out. They're going to learn in the process who their allies are, who their enemies are. They're going to approach something. They're probably going to fail. And this is where we want them to fail, right? We want them to try something out. We want them to fail here, learn from their failings, get back on the road, try it again, and until they're successful, until they're able to grab that sword and actually have a satisfactory ending, right? And so this is a lot of what we did. And you'll see in our deliverable here, the coaching along the way, that mentorship. And we'll also see a script that was written with a lot of tongue in cheek, right? Different types of characters. So, when we think about, and we'll get to the characters momentarily, but the storyline is where we started, right? So your HackOps, which is the environment we created, that's the ordinary world. It's a world of elite white hat cyber defense hackers, right? And so you're recruited in by Uncle Lenny, who you'll meet shortly. And your job is to really rise up the ranks as a criminal hacker. So the goal is to help infiltrate the dark web goat and to bring it down. And that is, kind of one of the activities, if you will. So that dark web goat is run by Bob, aka Bobby Bag of Donuts. And he has his own backstory, and we'll learn a little bit about him. And then you have, Uncle Lenny and some of his covert operatives who are helping you along the way and teaching you the things you need to do to be successful, right? And as you get better understanding and you acquire certain, understanding, you will get harder and harder challenges and ultimately be strong enough to be that human firewall that Cy was talking about. And so really we wanted to make sure that you go from very simple to difficult challenges, and go from very a newbie up to a pro, right? So here are the characters we talked about, and this is where we started together, is thinking about just storyboarding out who our characters are. So we built each of these guys. You can see that you are an active participant as a character. You are the protagonist. Bobby Bag of Donuts is that bad guy, the quintessential wise guy, and you'll see his personality shortly. Zelda is the bad gal. She's sassy, she's smart, and she's dangerous. Hope is your helper, right? She's your undercover agent, the white hat hacker. And Uncle Lenny, well, he's the nemesis, and we'll learn a little about him as well. But it's important to surround yourselves with those mentors, those allies, those enemies who are going to make the storyline come to life, right? And who are going to teach you along the way, all really critical. Okay. The other thing that's really critical is thinking about the environment you're in. You can have the best story in the world, but if it doesn't really look visually appealing, well, then I'm not sure why you're here, because you're not going to inspire the learner, right? So we one of the things we did, and we'll talk about the technology shortly, but as we built out all of our environments in 3D and using a variety of tools, but really wanted to make sure that it was a compelling environment and really engage the learner. So let's talk about those tools. The first thing we did was we videoed all of our actors using green screen studios, and then we used Adobe Premiere for editing. We used the Unreal Engine to build all those environments that you're going to see. We used Adobe After Effects for the compositing and finishing, and Avid Pro for audio, Adobe Media Encode for export and compression. And then we jumped into ELB's suite of technology. So we use CenarioVR for the course authoring and the asset hosting, and you'll see that shortly. We use the Training Arcade as the player hub. So this is where someone comes in, they register, they get their leaderboard, they get their certification. And then we use Stripe, because while in most cases we're making this available via companies to a large number of learners, in some cases people are buying this off the shelf on a one-by-one basis, and we're using Stripe to facilitate that purchase. So it's a fairly comprehensive offering put together. And as Cy says often, this is our secret sauce in how we built this, and we're really proud of what we've done. So let me, before I go any further, let me preview some of the scores so you can kind of see what this looks like. And then we'll walk through a few more things and take some questions and answers. So the first thing is I wanted to show you some context setting. So once again, if you think about that journey map, if you will, of storytelling, it all begins with just helping the learner understand what are they getting into. So let's start there.
One. Hey, Stephen, are you sharing your computer audio?
I think so. You want me to give me 1 second?
Okay, here's the rundown.
Oh, all right. It just sounds a little bit choppy, but it could just be Zoom.
Let me. So sorry. Let me try to adjust. I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second. I'll start again. Just make sure that. There we go. Okay. All right.
Nobody uses their real names down here, and we don't talk too much either.
That's great.
We're not here to make friends. Fresh meat like you need to be vetted, so Bobby has put this little hacker trial together. Each floor is a different level of hacker. The better you do, the further down you go. Make it through the first 3 floors, and you're in.
All right. So a little bit of context setting has been put in place. We've met our first character, and we certainly have a little bit of understanding of what we need to do. Continue on. We're going to meet a few more characters and certainly get some more settings here.
This is Hope. I'll grab Bob. Oh, hey, it looks like you made it. Uncle Lenny sent these. Here. We're pretty deep down here, so the signal is a bit sketchy. You have 2 comms. This one is Uncle Lenny, and over here is me. You can call me Hope. Bob has a nose for snitches, so I'll keep him busy while you're online. If I'm not available, I'll switch off my comms like this. I won't be able to see what Zelda is in charge of the trials, so I can't see what she's getting for you, but I can see what you send back to us, though, so I'll do my best to help. Good luck. Oh.
Zelda would like a word. Hey, how you doing? Nice glasses. What's your name? Ah, good. My hacker divas told you no names. But we gotta call you something. Let's go with Four Eyes. I like that. Follow me.
Okay, so now we've met a few more characters, and we're going to start to learn a little bit more about what we need to do.
This is Hope.
The only way to vet new hackers is to get them hacking, right? Folks downstairs can do magic with just a little bit of stolen data. If you can't do the same, identify and exploit a good target, well, then there's really no point in keeping you around. Get it? So let's start with some good old spearfishing. See if you've got a good eye. One of my hacker divas is going to send 4 company sites to this computer. I want you to take a look, identify a logical target, and send the divas your pick via the computer line input. Do that, and I'll see you on the next level. Good luck, Four Eyes.
Spear phishing is when you use a cleverly written email to trick someone into clicking on a malicious link or attachment. This interaction can be used to trigger malware and gain remote access to their computer. Once you're in, you can use their username and password to break into their organization's network and locate sensitive data worth selling to the highest bidder on the dark web or even a foreign government. The size of the organization doesn't matter, as long as they have valuable data. Even a small bit of information can be used to breach larger organizations and steal even more data. This can go on and on. Key targets are administrative employees with access to databases and other assets. But for now, just focus on organizations that may have high-value data. Good luck.
Marvel or Numero U are both good choices. Based on the nature of their business, they'll likely have high-value data, and they're less likely to have strong cybersecurity too. One's a small company and the other a university. Good job.
Now you need to target people in the organization, users with administrative capabilities. That's someone with a password that can get direct access to the network. If you can't find an admin, try lower hanging fruit, regular employees, then work your way up. But you can save time if you target a privileged user. Let's save you even more time. You can buy stolen credentials on the dark web. These get pawned by other hackers all the time. I'll set you up with my login. It's gonna cost us a little, but you need the right tools if you're gonna convince Bob you're a legit hacker. Try searching for Admin Creds Engineering Marvel plus Numero U and see if you get lucky.
You gotta be kidding me. You bought the one with no privileged credentials? The only one that might be valuable is the controller. You had 2 big hits with Numero U, IT system and database administrators. You gotta buy that one instead.
Okay, so a few things here before I move on. So you'll notice, obviously, we're getting ongoing feedback from characters. We're getting instructions on what to do. We're trying certain things out. We're getting positive or negative feedback based on our behaviors. There's also, if you notice, there is a point system attached to this, and there's also a timer. So there's a sense of urgency to make some decisions. And the nice thing is that you can go back and try over and over again. But we really want to make it feel like it has a sense of urgency attached to it. Okay. Okay. 2 more quick videos I want to go through, and then we'll talk a little more after these as well.
Check it out. Now we just need to make sure that the database of free mortgage quotes is related to the customer information you just got. Zelda might have a decent script for that. She's headed over. Says she has a scripted query that will get us through the next bit. As big a pain in the butt as she is brilliant. I've always said that. In the meantime, as I'm sure you know, a database is just a collection of spreadsheets. So all we need to know is the column and the row.
It's much more nuanced than that, old man. So why don't you stick to running the show and keep your grubby fingers off the keyboards, yeah?
Oh, you?
In simple terms, we need to find information in cells based on the columns and the rows, but first we need to know how much information or how many columns there are in the spreadsheet.
Well, excuse me. How exactly would you put
I'd call it an SQL query that assesses database structure. All right, then. Let's start with anything between 1 and 30 and go from there.
Well, that's just confusing.
Not really. It just means that there are only 23 columns, so we launch the script with that in mind.
Column titles.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. You can handle the rest.
Sally, come on. You've got it from here, right? Just pick which columns are going to be the most useful to you if you want to access an account. Definitely.
All right, so we have obviously a handful more lessons that one can do, and each step of the way, you're trying different things out, learning from your mistakes, and getting feedback. We want to show you one last part, and this is, there's a lot of learning in between, but we wanted to make sure that we also ended this in a way that was just as whimsical as some of the characters and had a little bit of tongue in cheek to it. So. Let's finish this off and we'll talk about it.
Like I said, all you gotta do is sit here and watch this guy. Runs a group called HackOps and calls himself Uncle Lenny. Apparently he's Bobby's arch nemesis. Anyway, keep an eye out for clues, I guess. Maybe he'll spill some intel on his location. Enjoy your movie.
Is just a one-time data dump. Keystroke loggers are great, but they only supply user credentials. Bobby knows the back door is the best way to gain control. Don't come in here. Listen up. We got you surrounded. Come out with your hands up.
Cops are here. Hey, Four Eyes, follow me if you want to live. Pretty sure they got Bobby, so I'm gonna be running things now. What? You got a problem with that? Come on! You're part of the new boat now. Let's get out of here.
Oh, here you are. The cops got Bobby, but this place is full of holes and the rats are all running. We got our work cut out for us. But for now, let's get the heck out of here. See you on the other side.
So we wanted to end with a little bit, obviously, of drama, a little bit of tongue in cheek, knowing that Uncle Lenny is ultimately really just a kid, and to make sure that we get someone thinking about what the next steps are, certainly, and what things that they need to be avoiding or looking out for. So, Cy, I'm going to turn it over to you because I think this is probably the most important thing as we're thinking about cybersecurity and what we need to be doing overall from a strategy standpoint.
Yeah, no, thank you, Stephen. And so just to pick up what Stephen was mentioning, we created this game, as you can see, to be truly an experience and experience of how the attackers truly operate today. I mean, they are professionally run, organized, and a lot of times they're funded and a part of a hostile nation state. And a lot of times they're criminal organizations, but they're really well funded. They even have HR. And so they recruit hackers, they train them, they pay them well, and they've got all the tools. And there's a certain methodology that they're taught about how to, do certain things and think and behave. And that's what we've got in this, learning game. And it's a best of both worlds. As Stephen mentioned, it's combines a movie element plus a game. We don't want to make it just a movie where you sit and watch and not really be immersed and interact. On the other hand, we didn't want to make it just a game where it's just a bunch of things that you do, but not really understand why you're doing it. So it's the best of both worlds. And then you can see there's a Hollywood ending at the end, surprise ending. So it tees up essentially the series of the games that we're going to be doing here. This is just the first. So now, you want to know, gee, do I go to the sunny side or do I go to the dark side? Because you can see, the sunny side is Hope and the dark side is Zelda. Which way should I go? Is Zelda going to take over now from Bobby? Is really Bobby gone or he's going to be back? Is Lenny kind of outed or what's he going to do next? What about Hope? So a lot of questions, a lot of mystery, a lot of mystique, just like, kind of movie like a Mission Impossible where you want to see the sequel. So that's, part of what we did with our secret sauce. The other part is that I wanted to emphasize these are based on actual attacks. So we spent a lot of time in pulling out how these attacks were successful recently, like SolarWinds, for example, is one of the cases that we dove into and we extracted how it was done, and it's woven into this game. There are other big blockbuster hacks that we brought into this game. And some of them are ones that CyberCatch is helping many organizations today remediate, where they've had a major ransomware attack. Now they reached out to CyberCatch. Now we're going in and we're cleaning up things. We're figuring out how the attack was done, What was missing? What could employees have done to prevent it or detect it in time? And what can be done to prevent it from going forward? So bringing all that expertise, the knowledge, and the IP into this game, woven into this scenario-based learning. And it's 60 minutes, just like a movie. So the intent here is that we want to have the learner dedicate about 60 minutes, and just like they would a movie, and really go through it. And when they come out, they're going to be thinking like the hacker, and therefore they're going to be a strong defender. So the three questions we would have you ask is, does our current cybersecurity training teach learners how attackers think and behave? And more likely, the answer is probably going to be no. More likely, you're quite not there with next-gen learning. And so then you're not really where you want to be. Where you want to be is to be stronger, where every single learner from the boardroom to the server room understands how attackers think and behave. And therefore, they can be a strong defender and do their part, whatever it might be. And you know what? Their role may change. They may get a promotion to be a supervisor or manager. They may move from one function to another function while this learning carries on. So that's the first question. Second question we would say you want to ask is, does our training cover the various ways attackers intrude, steal data, and install ransomware? And very likely, it's probably no. It might cover a little bit, but probably not all the things that we've got covered in here. Because remember, we go beyond just spear phishing. We go into how misconfigurations of websites and other vulnerabilities are exploited. We go into how attackers move around the network, what's called lateral movement, and hunt for the data. We go into how they actually extract data. You saw a little bit of snippet about databases. So again, it's not so technical and deep that somebody who's non-technical would get lost. But on the other hand, it's not so superficial and light that people are like, what does that mean? I don't really know. Now you got to know. You got to know how attackers actually find a database and how they actually get into it. And then you got to know how they extract the data out or how they install ransomware. So that's the second question. If your training today isn't covering the ways that these attackers actually do the bad deed, then it's not quite where it needs to be. The third question is, does your training teach how not to from recent cyber attacks? So, beyond just, here's some red flags of phishing. I mean, that's very basic. It's got to teach me actually, like, what mistakes are being made today? What mistakes should I avoid if I have to have this role in my organization? And that is something that could have blocked this attacker. And so from our learning, because it's based on actual cyber attacks, we've woven in not only how attackers behave and are successful, but also how not to. Like, what are some of the things that could have blocked this? And so we weave that into the learning. And so again, if the answer is very likely no, then there's room for improvement. So those are three questions we would say you want to ask to do a self-assessment, and want to share with you that our learning game covers all those three elements. And so learner comes out of this learning game going, wow, that was an amazing experience. I learned so much. I had no idea. And now I'm very strong. And it goes beyond basic hygiene, which we've got to do today because we're making it too easy for attackers. Like, did you know that 100 million people in the world today use the password 123456? Just those simple numbers. It's astounding. So, that's the kind of immaturity from a cybersecurity that we have in our organizations globally, where people just are not quite getting it. That there's little things that we all can do that are going to make a big difference. And the way to do that is to really engage them, to immerse them, and then to show them the real world, how these attackers are being successful, so that we just wake up and go, wow, okay, I've got to do my part. And by the way, this is really interesting because we're all digital and we all have some exposure. And so those are the three questions we wanted to emphasize for you. So with that, over back to you, Stephen.
Well, why don't we open it up for some questions, Stephanie? Anything that we can answer, more than happy to do so. Also, excuse me, I'm including size of my contact information here. Happy to answer anything offline as well. But hopefully we can turn the rest of this into a dialogue if possible.
Yeah, so we have a question. What is the advantage of having the 3D environment as opposed to a 2D experience? Joel noticed that on the computer screen today, the text is maybe a little small. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So, excuse me. So two things. One is the experience, by the way, in goggles is a slightly different than a desktop or a mobile or a tablet experience. So we are zoomed in on that text, obviously, to make that easier. And I think that for me, the advantage to being in a 3D environment is a few things. One is it is as you're as immersed in an experience as possible. It reduces distractions. There's lots of stats that talk about the power of virtual reality is that one, that lack of distraction keeps you focused on the content. Two, it helps you start to associate with the characters and the storyline a lot more effectively and actually participate a lot more actively. And three, it has that entertainment level that is certainly going to be potentially, as a result of the immersion, a lot more desirable and memorable, right? So, I think those are certainly advantages. Do you need to do a 3D environment for it to be impactful? No, but and sometimes we do a 2D or a mock 3D environment that is not usable with headset, but those are certainly advantages.
Yeah, and I would just add, Stephen, to that, that's why we designed it, so that it can be for different modalities and different demographics. So one can use the game, to get the full immersive experience, virtual reality, by using, say, MetaQuest goggles, for example. So it's designed to be able to be deployed there, but also just on a desktop, a laptop, MacBook, or just a desktop. But yet you will get that, a visual effect of being in the room, taking a close-up look at a computer screen, running a couple of scripts, running a couple of these tools that are available for the hacker, and really experiencing it. Also, we designed it so that each of the floors that you're going in after each experience is different, and they're getting a little bit more cooler because you're being more successful. So all those little things we took into account to make, again, the experience very rich and, again, real world. Just to add to what Stephen mentioned, so that it's really sticky, and it's kind of like a movie, where you come out going, "Wow, that was an amazing experience. That was fun."
And last thing I'll just say on this before we jump, I see there are a few more questions. That's been the constant feedback we've heard from companies that have been using this training, is that the level of immersion and the storytelling certainly surpasses what a lot have seen in any of their other training. So we're really pleased with that. And that was certainly the goal when we set out to do this.
Thank you. And then can you speak a little bit about post-training effectiveness analysis? How are you determining if this is more effective than conventional modalities?
Sai, do you want to touch on it, or you want me to start either way?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'll jump in, and then please, add to it, Stephen. Thank you for the question. So, the game is built, as Stephen mentioned, to be an immersive experience, but it does score. So there's a score that the learner will have, and they're going to get feedback as they go along throughout. There are points that you're earning. It's out of 100. And we want to see 80 or above, which is sort of the standard in the industry for a successful learning. And so the learner will come out with a score. The learner will get feedback as they go along. They're going to win some points, lose some points. By the end, they'll get a score. The other part about this cool feature is that you can now compare the learner to other learners. So there's a learner board also. So you'll be able to see how this particular member score compares to others, their peer group. You can compare different groups and departments, if you will, within an organization. So that's all built in, which is really nifty. So as far as post analysis, it would be great for individual leaders to be able to meet with their team and see how everyone did. Get them engaged, kind of like post review of a movie. Where we go see a movie or play a game, and then we socially sort of share those experiences. Which character did you like? Oh, that was funny. Oh, that was a shocker. Well, I want to be on the sunny side. I want to be the dark side. I can't wait. I thought this was a kind of a tricky. I didn't know about this part. So there's a lot of that aha moments that's going to be there, and it would be great for each of the team leaders within an organization to use this as an opportunity to maybe have some coffee or tea and some snacks and kind of do a post analysis of the game so that the team is stronger and take away some to-dos. And frequently what we find is that's a great best practice, and it frequently identifies gaps in the organization that the organization needs to take certain steps within each groups, and then certainly that can be done collectively. So we have some tools that are guides, I should say, that we can provide to you on questions to ask post learning that can drive that discussion. But certainly you can weave this into your overall learning program in that way.
It's also probably worth mentioning that while this is truly designed as a single player experience, in addition to having group discussions, I actually went through this with my team as a collaborative play, and we made some of the storyline decisions together, and we saw the repercussions of those decisions together. And quite honestly, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it solicited feedback and conversation right there about the decisions we were making and what the impact could be. So we did it as more as a instructor-led training experience, and it was quite effective in forcing some of those dialogues that are probably not happening often enough in our workplace. So,
yeah, and one thing I just wanted to add quickly. Somebody asked this was about the deployment. So the game is SCORM compliant, and so it can be deployed on any SCORM compliant LMS. And of course, as Stephen mentioned, it's also available, in the training arcade, so that if one doesn't have a learning management system, one could still have the team members and the entire organization play it, if you will, on our training arcade server that way, without having to have an LMS. But it is SCORM compliant, so it can be easily installed on any LMS and deployed. So.
I see Scott asked a question about accessibility, and so. When it comes to 508 accessibility, and thinking more about different requirements from visual needs or hearing needs or whatnot, unfortunately, we do not offer another walkthrough. We do happen to have a lot of material that is available to accompany this course, but we do not have the question was, do we have a light mode? And we did not build a light mode beyond the accompanying material to focus. Now, one could play this through and utilize audio only, and certainly understand that. But that's as far as we've gone. So I just want to kind of talk about that. And that's one of the challenges with virtual reality in games, is that you are designing a more immersive experience, and unfortunately, as a result, it impacts some who cannot access that. So.
Thank you, Stephen, for addressing that. We did have, one last question. Do you know if any of the companies using this are doing before and after test phishing campaigns, for example? That would be a way to test the knowledge retention. If you sent out like a phishing before and then another one after they take the training, what do you think about that?
Yeah, let me jump on that one, Stephen, and certainly please add if you'd like. Yes, there are some companies that are doing that, where they'll send some simulated phishing emails and see, what the performance is of the employees, and then have the game deployed and then do another one. So that is something that certainly is a good idea to do. However, please note that our game goes beyond phishing. And that is one of the differentiators with this game, is that we're not only teaching about spear phishing, which is one of the primary ways that attackers get in, but the attackers also get in by exploiting other human errors. And so, we're covering those aspects also, which, a simulated phishing email wouldn't necessarily detect. So certainly, I think, pre and post can be a good idea, but it's really about having the immersion, happen, and the employees acquire the skills, and then, look for other ways to measure performance. So, for example, maybe a scan of internet-facing assets before and after might also be a good idea, in addition to spear phishing, so that you can see that, okay, we had some high risk and medium risk vulnerabilities identified, and then now we trained everybody, including the people that are in the technical areas, and now we've done some scans, and it shows, wow, it's gone. No more high risk or medium risk items. Why? Because the employees are much more smarter, and they're paying greater attention to those details that they need to, that are in certain technical areas. So combination of those kinds of efforts are going to give good measurement, in addition to the scores, because the scores will tell you, how long they were in the game and what the scores were and how they compare to their peers.